Hello, my name is Jesvir Mahil and I am the Director of University for Life. Welcome to the Creativity and Culture Conference. To give you some background of the purpose of the conference and how the idea for it emerged, allow me to explain a bit about the background. So I started researching for a PhD in education over 5 years ago. I began this research while I was still teaching business studies to teenagers, 16 to 19-year-olds in further education colleges in England. When I used to ask my teenagers to be very creative and to put some creativity into their assignments, I was often disappointed at their interpretation of what I meant by creativity. Very often I would receive assignments full of copies, pictures that they had copied and pasted from the internet and colourful titles. Perhaps you'll agree with me that a culture of copy and paste is not intrinsically creative. However, I also noticed that we don't have a shared definition of creativity, which is useful in the business education environment. So I began my research with a pedagogical concern, exploring this concept of creativity that we could define in a way that was appropriate for the business environment. And I began my research from 1926 with Graham Wallace, who wrote the book The Art of Thought, and he described the creative process. And during my first year, I synthesized some of the existing research into creativity, which often defined creativity as entailing two broad concepts, one of originality and one of value. Originality is sometimes called uniqueness or surprise, something that we're not expecting. And value can sometimes be referred to as being effective or appropriate or useful in some way. But by the end of my second year, I realized that this definition of creativity was limited to only the product of creativity, and creativity is much broader than merely the product, which is just one aspect of creativity. So this synthesis of the current research, the existing knowledge, I was able to categorize it into 7 broad aspects of creativity, which as a mnemonic I call the 7 Ps. The 7 Ps are the process, the person, place, pressures, products, persuasion, and permanence. Each of these Ps can be used to ask yourself a relevant question about creativity. For example, what kind of person is creative? So you could ask yourself, how am I creative? The process, how do I generate creativity? The product, what is my creative contribution? Place, where am I most creative? Pressures, what pressures are blocking my creativity? Persuasion, how is my creativity being recognized and rewarded? Permanence, how will my creativity cause cultural revolution or cultural evolution? During this conference, you will find that every person who has done a speech or engaged in an interview will have very different questions about creativity based on their perspective, whether they are academic or educators or entrepreneurs, and you will also have your own. Allow me to begin with one of the questions that I'm currently exploring regarding the concept of creativity. Like myself, you may have attended numerous conferences where the speaker was either boring or lacking in substance or both. Did you wonder how they got chosen to speak at the conference? How did they manage to persuade the relevant gatekeepers? How did they persuade the conference election committee that their message would be valuable to attendees? I have to admit that I've struggled to stay awake at too many conferences. Even though I invested time, money and other resources to attend and was determined to learn, I felt bored and disappointed. On the other hand, I've been to many conferences where I felt highly entertained, but I left knowing little more than I did already. So one of the questions that I'm deeply curious about, associated with the concept of creativity, is who gets recognized for being creative and who remains ignored? Using a systems thinking model of creativity, based on the work of Csikszentmihalyi, I'm exploring the relationship between an individual, society and culture in recognition of creativity. For academics, speaking at conferences and writing for prestigious journals can pave the way towards recognition. So I decided to explore the process of being selected to speak at this Creativity and Culture conference hosted by my company, University for Life. I created a 3-stage application process lasting around 8 months from January to the end of August 2017. In the first stage, speakers had to submit a 1-page synopsis responding to questions relating to the individual, society and culture. How are you creative? How do you express your creativity? How are you persuading societal gatekeepers about the value of your work? How does your culture influence your creativity? How does your creativity influence your culture? By the end of August 2017, we selected 6 key speakers out of a total of around 30. Based on my own experience of attending and speaking at conferences and also my observations during the selection process for this conference, I noticed that speakers tend to be selected based on 2 broad factors. Those factors are authority and attraction. Authority is based on the speaker's previous achievements, for example, their qualifications, titles, books, films, or their creative projects. The interesting thing is that the 30 people who initially expressed an interest in speaking at this conference all had the relevant authority. They are qualified educators, academics, and entrepreneurs. However, only 6 of them made it through to the final selection, which was not based on their level of authority, but their level of attraction. Attraction includes the confidence to be visible on a platform and the courage to be judged, being in the right place at the right time, responding promptly to emails calling for action. It involves mutual trust and respect between the speaker and the conference gatekeeper. Also, attraction includes having creative content which is interesting, perhaps with useful stories, examples and perspectives. With attraction, there needs to be a sense of openness, responding creatively to external feedback. And all of the speakers who made it to the final selection of 6 demonstrated a high level of perseverance. They demonstrated commitment and enthusiasm for presenting at the conference right until the end. What I've noticed about these attraction factors in the process of being recognized for creativity isn't surprising, because creativity researchers often refer to interesting and valuable ideas. They refer to the importance of confidence and taking risks, and the sheer perseverance of the creative person and their level of skill in being in the right place at the right time are often discussed. However, as I analysed these attraction factors, which contributed to the 6 out of the 30 people being selected to deliver speeches at this conference, I feel convinced that persuasion and recognition are part of a non-linear, dynamic and multi-dimensional creative process. I believe that the level of authority and attraction of the gatekeeper is equally as important as that of the speaker taking part in a selection process. Whereas the speaker is being judged explicitly, the gatekeeper is being judged implicitly. So when we say that we, the conference organisers and judges, selected 6 speakers out of 30, we have to qualify this statement by admitting that as gatekeepers we maintained the commitment of 6 out of 30 speakers during an 8-month selection process. When we consider the authority of the speaker, we have to contextually relate this to the authority of the relevant gatekeeper. Likewise, for all the attraction factors that distinguish between those who were eventually selected and those who were not, we have to consider each of these factors in relation to the gatekeepers who elicited each of these characteristics. In other words, being persuasive and recognized is a dynamic, creative process which implicitly and explicitly judges the quality of performance of both the speaker and the gatekeeper in a cyclical rather than a linear manner. The level of prestige and the strength of the branding of an organisation, in this case University for Life, attract speakers with a level of authority to match. The extent to which the space provided inspires confidence and courage will attract speakers with the level of confidence and courage to take up the opportunity. The perseverance and commitment of the speakers is intertwined with the ability of the gatekeepers, in this case those representing University for Life, to inspire and nurture the commitment of the speakers. The creative process entailed in recognition of creativity is not only a two-way but a multi-directional interaction. In addition to speakers and gatekeepers, the audience is also making implicit and explicit judgments and evaluations about the speakers and the gatekeepers representing the organisation. As a member of the audience, I said earlier that I've often been bored at conferences, or I've left feeling entertained but without learning anything new to help me develop or transform my life in any way. These judgments and evaluations I made exerted power, and these judgments influenced me to create my own conferences. I designed the Creativity and Culture Conference to be an intercultural space for academics, educators and entrepreneurs, and the acronym OFFICE summarises some of its key features. The conference takes place online to overcome location barriers. It's offered free to overcome financial barriers. We'll have regular monthly follow-up sessions to nurture quality of relationships formed through the conference. We offer a large proportion of interactive sessions to avoid boredom. Instead of one-way communication where we position ourselves as experts telling you what we know, we're inviting multi-directional conversations, allowing your knowledge about creativity to enhance our own awareness. The conference is designed to be co-creative, to generate social and cultural capital. We offer a wide range of evergreen sessions which people can access at their own convenience to overcome accessibility barriers. As we are co-creating and synthesizing existing knowledge about creativity and learning to be aware of the boundaries of our existing awareness, I hope that each one of us feels a sense of growth and transformation through this Creativity and Culture Conference, so that everyone feels that attendance is a worthwhile investment of their time. As the seed for this Creativity and Culture Conference grows and eventually blossoms, my intention is that we will learn, develop and possibly transform our own lives, our society and our cultures creatively. I look forward to being part of this creative process with you, both as an individual and as an organisation through University for Life. Enjoy the conference.